Hello, hello, and welcome. We are 9 little Aussies living in the USA, building a home where we all belong. Where gardens are cultivated, real food is celebrated, agrarian living is reclaimed, where we choose to walk with wonder and faith, eyes wide open to the beauty of life. Where stories and rhyme are a tether that anchor our hearts to the ancient landmarks our fathers have left for our learning, and where all weary souls may find comfort and rest. It is a grand undertaking, perhaps, but a profoundly simple one. I invite you to join us as we reach for the stars with our feet firmly rooted in love and God's good earth. Hello, lovely people. Welcome to my winter farm kitchen. Today we're going to talk about feeding our families nutritious meals on a super tight budget. How to do it. I'm going to give you a nice cheap meal that you can make for your family and a few of my top tips on how to do this week after week, meal after meal, when your budget is really tight. So I guess just a little bit of a backstory. My husband and I have been married for more than a couple of decades at this point. We have 7 children, and we made a decision many years ago, early in our marriage, that we wanted for me to stay home and take care of the kids, and we wanted a large family. Now that meant that we knew we were going to be choosing to have to make some sacrifices. Seasons vary, but it has frequently meant that my grocery budget is very small. There have been seasons where that has led to great anxiety in my life and been very stressful. I know what it is to walk down grocery aisles with a knot in my stomach and literally feeling nauseous over how I was going to feed my family nutritious meals with the money I had in my pocket. So I understand how stressful that can be, and especially when you start to educate yourself and learn and know that the kind of food you eat really makes a difference, and you're wanting, with that information you've got, to use that to feed your family. But then you look at the prices in the grocery store, and you look at the, especially if you're watching foodie videos and health gurus talking about things to eat, things not to eat, it can just be super discouraging when you know that, well, that's great, but my budget is this big and what they're saying I should do is this big. I thought I would share today with you 2 very simple meals. One of them we will cook together. Actually, this first one that we're going to look at is one that is really from my childhood. My mum used to make this. My brother, I was talking to him recently, and he said since we left, which is more than a couple of years ago now, but grocery prices in that time have tripled in Australia. And I know that they've at least doubled here, because when we first came and we would shop and go do a shop at Costco, what we could put in the trolley to feed, to do a decent sized shop, meat, veggies, just some of those staples was costing us about $200, and now it's $400 for the exact same trolley, not changing things. And this is not fancy food, this is just staples. You know, one of the things that I find interesting, when I was growing up, really the staple meats that we had were beef and lamb. It would be interesting to talk to other Aussies. I don't know if that would be the same with a lot of people. I grew up on a property and my dad killed all of our own meat, and it was a sheep and cattle property, so that's what we ate. So we didn't eat chicken much at all. And pork was very occasional. It was kind of a fancy food. Like we would have a pork roast on Christmas Day, you know, with the crackling all on top. It wasn't something that we ate every day. Whereas now I see in the supermarkets, the cheap meat is the chicken and the pork. Now, personally, we do eat a little pork. I love bacon, but we don't eat a ton of it at the moment. Because I'm just not comfortable feeding my family commercial pork. I just don't think the way they're bred and the way they're housed and slaughtered, like the whole thing does not make for a healthy product for our families. But we do eat a little bit, and we hope to one day have pigs here on our property and be able to harvest them. But you know, this is where we're at right now. We did grow chickens, meat chickens. We have plenty of laying hens. We have them all the time. We had meat chickens the first or second year we were here, maybe about a year after getting here. And the only way I was able to do that is we had a bartering system set up with a neighbor where I rendered tallow for them in exchange for feed that they bought in bulk that we fed the chickens. They relocated, they're beautiful people, relocated to another place, and so that didn't work anymore. And the just budgetary constraints, just being honest here, this is why we haven't done meat chickens again, because that opportunity wasn't there anymore. And the feed for meat chickens is just really expensive. So we are back in a situation right now where I am scouring the stores for organic chicken. I always buy whole chooks. That's definitely one way to save money, is by, and a chook is a chicken, by the way. If I say chook on accident without thinking, in Australia a chicken is a chook. Just so you know. So I always buy whole chickens. It's way cheaper, and I use all of it, and then I have the carcass for broth. So anyway, let's get started, and we'll talk about a few tips as we go. All right, so first we're going to talk about chicken. Like I said, we don't have meat chickens right now, so I don't have any of our own in the freezer. We do have a couple of chest freezers, and that does help, because when you see a deal, you see something, you can grab it and put it in the freezer for later. Just a couple of examples of what I look for. These ones I think we got at Sam's. They're organic chickens, and they come in a twin pack, and they were $2.99 a pound. This one I got at Aldi, and it was $2.79 a pound for free range organic chicken. Now, obviously that is not going to be the best of the best, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And, you know, sometimes I think we need to be really careful it's great to know all the things, right? It's great to know everything about our food, where it comes from, the nutrition in it, what's good, what's bad, all the things. Because knowledge is power, and we should educate ourselves on those things. However, I think it's also really important to acknowledge where we are in our life, in the season we are in, and our finances. I think, unfortunately, something that does happen way too often within the health world, natural health world, even in the homesteading world, I've seen this happen, where we sort of cut ourselves off at the knee because we say, well, this is the way we should be eating. This is, you know, it needs to be grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised, you know, all these little buzzwords. And it's true. I'm not saying it's not true. It's true. Really, we need to get back to the way our grandparents ate. But sometimes that is a process. And if we tell people that you have to go straight to the best of the best, a lot of times it just completely disempowers people, and they can't get there. They physically can't get there because they don't have the finances or the time, whatever your issue is. So my perspective is just that let's walk in the direction of our end goal, which might be the best of the best. I mean, that's my goal for my family, but I also understand that I've got to do what I can within my means, because debt is a nasty creature, and I don't want to go there in order to get the best of the best. So we're going to do what we can with what we have in our hands, and we're going to trust the Lord with the rest. So sometimes Sam's has a good deal you can pick up, sometimes Aldi. Now this meat was actually a little gift. My mother-in-law came home and said, hey, I bought you some chicken. So you know what? I am so grateful for that. So grateful. It was very kind and thoughtful of her. So we are going to eat that chicken. Even though I probably would have bought a whole chicken myself just because of the price factor. And, you know, I try and get organic when I can because it's stepping in the right direction. But that's okay. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the chicken she bought me. You know, and another thing worth mentioning is, like, I am buying whole chickens that are organic. You may be in a place where you can't even, like, that's organic is too expensive and you can't get there just yet. You know what? If you're buying meat and cooking it yourself, no matter, like this here was $1.19 a pound, as opposed to, what was this, $2.99 and yeah, $2.79 on that one. So these are still a lot cheaper than a lot of other meats that you will get right now in the supermarket, but this is cheaper again. So if this is where your budget is at, let's take the step of learning how to cook this from scratch to make it delicious. So we're going to take it out. These are Marylands. Well, in Australia, I don't know, do you call them that here? We would call them chicken Marylands, which is like, it's like the thigh and the leg joined together. But I don't know if you call them that here, because these are actually just, it's called chicken leg quarters. And real, this is so simple, this meal. My mum did used to make this. I will use it with whatever chicken I have. So sometimes I use it with chicken legs, sometimes chicken wings. Today it's Marylands. You can pass out a whole chicken, like, and cut it up all into smaller pieces and do it with that. If you have a whole chicken, there is no, you know, right or wrong in that regard. It'll work just fine. I today am using coconut aminos because that's what I have. I also, like, my mum used to always do it with soy sauce, and it is really lovely with soy sauce. If I'm using soy sauce, I do try and get, and you can usually get this pretty affordably. It's not crazy expensive. The Kikkoman naturally brewed soy sauce, or naturally fermented. I can't remember if it says naturally brewed or naturally fermented. But anyway, the Kikkoman is a good one. It has some that are naturally brewed and some that aren't. So just try and get that one. But the Kikkoman is a good brand. Today I'm using this, which also will taste really good. Then some raw honey, or whatever honey you can get. Now, I don't always put sesame seed oil in. I am today because I happen to have it, because I found it at a really cheap at a little Indian store in Houston. I don't always have it, and it tastes delicious without. And the only other thing we need is a bit of garlic. So this is not something I measure. I'm just kind of going to glog it over the top. Is that a, I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but I'm just kind of, you do not want quite as much of the sesame oil because it's very strong. It adds such delicious flavor to this, and we only use a tiny bit. And if you're particularly careful, you can just omit it if you don't want it. A little drizzle of honey. I do buy honey. We get it in a 5-gallon bucket from a local beekeeper, and it is quite a lot of money up front, but it works out way cheaper per, you know, whatever measurement you want to use, ounces or liters or whatever. So it does mean if you can create some margin in your budget and save a little bit aside and find a beekeeper, it does work out a lot cheaper to buy it in a big bucket. Now, of course, we have a big family. I'm pretty frequently feeding 9 to 15 people. So, you know, you may not need as big a bucket as what I get. I don't have a ton of garlic, so I'll probably top it up with some minced garlic that I have in the fridge. This garlic is out of our garden, but the cloves were really small. So there's fresh minced garlic like that. I also have this that I might add a little bit of, or you can do dried garlic, whichever you have will work just fine. Now this is optional, but I'm going to put some sesame seeds just sprinkled on top. Adds a little texture and a little flavor. Now I'm just going to pop that in the oven to bake at 350, which is 180 Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit, and we'll bake it for about an hour and then check it. Okay, I'm cutting up some cabbage that we're going to fry. You might hear the mixer in the background. I'm actually prepping for this big storm, ice storm, snowstorm, whatever it's going to be, winter storm that is coming through our area tomorrow. So I'm baking extra bread and muffins and quiches and things that will be cooked, and then we'll be able to eat them cold if we lose power, just in case. So that's why you can hear mixers in the background. So we're going to cut up some cabbage and get it frying. Okay, so I've just got the cast iron pan. Sometimes I use butter. You just need a good fat. You can use butter. I've used lard or tallow. Coconut oil works quite good. Avocado oil. Coconut oil you can get pretty inexpensively if you buy it in a big thing like this at Sam's or Costco. If you have access to lard or tallow, that's great. Just see what you've got. I started frying cabbage just in butter, and that works great too, and butter used to be cheap. The price of butter has gone crazy high, but just whatever good fat you have. Today I am going to use coconut oil. I wanted to show you too, I did find this grass-fed ghee in a Indian store in Houston, and I picked this jar, which is a decent sized jar. It's 32 fluid ounces, and it was about $14, which is really cheap. I usually don't buy ghee, even though it is a really good cooking fat, because usually it's expensive and it's just not, I'm just like, I can't do that. But when I find a good deal like that, I will pick it up. Dice that reasonably fine. I'm gonna put that in. Okay, let's just talk about cabbage for a minute. So cabbage is not expensive. It has gone up in price, absolutely, just like everything has. But I find there are some vegetables which are still, you can feed a lot of people. They go a long way. Cabbage does cook down. Meat is expensive, no matter what kind of meat you buy. So I have often been in a situation where I need to bulk the meat out a lot. So I will add something like finely diced cabbage or grated carrots, grated zucchini, anything you can, any of those vegetables that are, I've even done grated potatoes before, or just finely chopped potatoes, carrots, cabbage, and in the summertime zucchini are really good for bulking out a meal. And depending on the meal you've made, I mean, for years and years, I used to make, I've done the same thing with mushrooms actually. If you can get mushrooms cheaply, just keep an eye on your grocery store and look for things that are on sale. Shopping seasonally makes a big difference. I buy grapes in the summertime, but I'm never going to buy, and watermelon, but I'm never going to buy them in the off season because the price goes up, the quality goes down, and it doesn't make any sense to do that. So look for things that are in season. Spaghetti bolognese is a meal that we have a lot, and it is fairly cheap. Ground beef, they call it here. Minced meat is what I'm used to calling it. Is often one of the cheapest ways to eat meat. So we have always eaten a lot of mincemeat or ground beef or ground whatever. And spaghetti bolognese is definitely a favorite way. My arm's getting tired. A favorite way to eat it. But what I will often do to make it stretch and go further, because even though it is cheaper, when you're feeding a lot of mouths, it can still be expensive if you're using meat as your main ingredient with noodles on the bottom, like a spaghetti noodle, but it's still a lot of meat that it requires. And I found as our family was growing, we were needing more and more meat to feed everyone, but my budget wasn't increasing. So I started putting through a food processor carrots, mushrooms, zucchini. I even did it with broccoli sometimes. Anything I had on hand that could bulk out that meat and make it just more food to feed bellies, to fill bellies. You know, that's what it's all about. It's filling bellies with nutritious food and making it taste yummy. And the thing about spaghetti bolognese is if you have a good bolognese sauce, it's going to cover a lot of that. And you put a good amount of spices and herbs. They're not like, I used to put mushrooms in, the kids didn't even know they were in, because when you put them in a food processor, they end up actually with a really similar texture to ground beef or minced meat. So they didn't even know they were there. I have one child, my eldest, I don't know if he knows this, but when he was little, I did this all the time. He hates mushrooms, like with a passion. I think it's a textural thing as well as a taste. But when you grind them up in a food processor, you can't even, they have, and put them with minced meat or ground beef, the texture becomes all combined. You can't even tell it's in there. And then you had a good bolognese sauce on the top and nobody is the wiser. So I have for many years been able to bulk out meat with vegetables. All right, so I'm giving that a stir. It's starting to wilt a little and soften, and it will cook down a lot. The other thing I often do to speed up the process of cooking this is to put a lid on it. So just put a lid on there and it will steam and cook a little bit quicker. While all that is cooking and doing its thing, I have hungry little people. So I am going to show you another really quick, easy, very affordable meal that has been a staple in our house for many years, so that I can feed these small people, and then we'll get back to the honey soy chicken. So I've actually decided I'm going to cook some extra rice. With this rice, I'm going to make tuna rice. You could also do this with chicken. I've done it with tinned chicken at a pinch. You can either use tinned tuna or tinned chicken. And then a milk. I used to always use coconut milk. I love it with coconut milk. It is a great flavor combination, the tuna and the coconut milk and the rice. And salt and pepper is so easy. You just put it all in the pot. You have your rice cooked. You add the coconut milk. You add the tuna or the chicken. Some salt and pepper to season it. Garlic powder if you like. And then we would tend to put, if we had it, if we don't have it, that's fine. Sometimes we have to eat meals plain if there's no extra condiments in the house, but you could put grated cheese on it. You might put finely diced shallots, or we've done finely diced shallots and capsicums, or bell peppers. So whatever you want on the top, and it's delicious. And you've got your protein, your carbs. Now what I'm doing today is I'm doing it with cow's milk, because we have a cow in milk and we have a ton of milk. Okay, so quantities, just to be clear, quantities really don't matter. It's whatever rice I had left over. I put about 4, I think it was. 4 small tins of tuna, but it's really just a taste preference. If you like it really meaty, put more or less according to your taste. And then I'm just gonna add some milk in until I don't want it super runny and soupy. I want it just like a nice kind of porridge consistency. So I'm gonna give this a little mix. The cream was all on the top. And pour that in. Okay, so you can see it's kind of just a nice chunky consistency. And we're gonna heat it up and add salt and pepper. Okay, so I just stirred this. We like it kind of crunchy on the bottom, so I know some people might not like those slightly burnt pieces, but we like it like that. How do you like your tuna rice, Sam?
With tomato sauce and sour cream.
Tomato sauce and sour cream? Okay. So like I said, you could put grated cheese on top. I'm going to dish it up for the kids. This little guy likes tomato sauce, which is ketchup.
That was fine.
How hungry are you, little hunter?
Tell you one thing, I'm hungry and hungry.
Really? You want to go get the other kids and tell them lunch is ready? This one's nearly empty. So some sour cream. There's enough for you, sweetie. That's enough. Hey, tuna rice. It's so easy. It is nutritious. It's good food. It doesn't have any nasty ingredients. You can put whatever toppings you want. Another favorite topping is sweet chili sauce and sour cream. That's, the older boys like that. I think actually we're out of sweet chili sauce right now. It isn't as easy to find here as it is in Australia, but you can add to it. You can put whatever toppings you want on it, or eat it just like that. It is delicious on its own. Okay, we went a little bit over on these. I got distracted. And there you have it. A nutritious, very hearty, very delicious meal that really did not cost very much at all. So that will fill some hungry bellies. I have 6 sons, so the eldest of whom are all adult sizes, even if they're not fully adult. They eat a ton, and this meal will satisfy them. The thing to remember too about cabbage, so obviously you've got your protein. The chicken is an affordable protein. The rice is very affordable, a good way to bulk out a meal and fill bellies. It's good for you. The cabbage, though, I don't want you to overlook the cabbage, because although it is cheap, it is a powerhouse. It's kind of historically been seen as a poor man's vegetable, but it is so good for you. It's really high in vitamin C, in vitamin K, folate. It even has things like manganese and magnesium and things, but it's high in fiber, which is really important for obvious reasons. And it's also a good antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory. Some of the things you probably don't think about when you are thinking about cabbage, but there you go. It's really good for you. And I hope you enjoy that meal and give it a go. Let me know if you do try it. Okay, well, I hope that was helpful. Just a couple of other things I was thinking about as I sort of was just thinking to myself, what do I do on a regular basis? Because some of these things are really automatic now after, I guess, just living this way for a lot of years. Bread is definitely a staple. And since I got the mill, which is just over a year ago now, so I've been making bread for over a decade, but the freshly milled I've been doing for about a year. And what I just love is that it's really affordable. Now, the mill was an investment. There's definitely that expense, although I didn't incur that myself. The mill was a gift from my mother-in-law, but for most, that is an expense you will have to, an outlay, right? But once you've got that, the cost of the wheat berries and the cost of making a loaf of bread is so small. And when you're using freshly milled wheat, it's a powerhouse of nutrients that you are giving to your family. Now, before I was making, still was good in whole ingredients. It was organic and well sourced, but it still was white flour bread that I was making prior to getting the mill. And it's really not that high in nutrients. But when you're milling the grains yourself, you have a lot, basically 90% of the nutrients required for human life. I think it doesn't have A, doesn't have D and C, and there's some maybe an amino acid I think that it doesn't have. But anyway, it basically has 90% of what we require to sustain human life. And I can give that to my family in a loaf of bread that costs me about $1 to make. It's just so affordable. And that is probably my number one budgeting hack, is get a mill, make your own bread. And I mean, there's a reason why bread was a staple for so many centuries. It's just, it's a powerhouse of nutrients. Not modern bread, not what you might buy in the supermarket, but if you can make it at home, it's so good. So bread, for sure. I don't know whether to even mention this one, but when you're trying to make 3 nutritious meals a day for your family with whole foods, and not do boxed meals or, pre-prepared things, breakfast is probably, for me, has been the most tricky. And for years, we still ate cereal. Now cereal is an occasional treat. The children still like it, so we have it sometimes, like on holidays or something like that. Birthdays, that will sometimes request it. But generally speaking, we eat either an egg meal, a French toast casserole, or a Dutch baby, or scrambled eggs, or eggs on toast, or toad in a hole, or what else? Egg, high protein. We've got eggs here, so eggs and bread, especially when you're giving them the good bread, it's like such a good breakfast. But I wanted to just remind you, I guess, in case maybe you've thought of this, maybe you haven't, but porridge is such a good, nutritious breakfast. And it's one that we used for many, many years as a staple. I mean, in the wintertime, we would eat porridge, which is just, at its base level, is just rolled oats and water and a pinch of salt. It's very, very cheap to make, but it's really good for you. And they've actually found in recent studies that there is a component in oats, I can't remember the fancy scientific name, but it helps to draw out heavy metals from your body as it moves through your system. So it's really good for you, and it's super, super affordable. So don't forget about oats and porridge. And in the summertime, what we did, and I still do, and we still have porridge about once a week, and I try and mix it up with some of those other egg meals. In the summertime, I will make bircher muesli, which I have done a video on that before, I think. And it's really just soaking your oats overnight in yogurt or water with a bit of lemon juice, something to start breaking down those oats. And then we serve it the next day with an extra dollop of yogurt and some fresh fruit or something of that nature. So those are 2 really good breakfasts. And yeah, we just, at this point, it's not my end goal to be shopping at Sam's. I really would prefer to shop at Costco, actually, but we don't have one nearby. I do get orders from them sometimes, but for the most part, we do end up going to Sam's for meat. And I just keep an eye on the sales and look for what is on sale. I will sometimes get chuck roast when they're marked down, or steak when it's marked down, or just whatever. As long as it's a whole meat and not a processed meat, I will look to pick up those sales. Okay friends, that's all I have today. Please let me know in the comments below your ideas, what you like to do for working on a tight budget, maybe your favorite meals. Tell me all about it. I would love to hear. A poem for you today by Emily Dickinson. He ate and drank the precious words, his spirit grew robust. He knew no more that he was poor, or that his frame was dust. He danced along the dingy ways, and this bequest of wings was but a book. What liberty a loosened spirit brings. And I will see you again on the next one. Sunshine and raindrops.